Tonight, a new Arctic invasion. Records fall, but water doesn't. And for some, the way out of poverty began here.
I couldn't wait to get to work because I had fun.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley. President Obama heads home to Chicago tomorrow to designate a new national monument, the Pullman Historic District. For decades, rail cars were built there that carried poor people to a better life. Here's Dean Reynolds.
On Chicago's far south side, fenced off and rusting in the winter wind, are the padlocked ruins of a time gone by. It's what's left of the industrial colossus built by railroad titan George Pullman, a man whose sleeper cars once set the standard for rail travel, and whose workers were among the first Americans to enter the middle class.
Was it a good place to work?
Oh, I enjoyed working there. I couldn't wait to get to work because I had fun.
Ray Quiroz and his brother Al worked at the Pullman Standard factory for over 20 years. They have lived in the Pullman neighborhood all their lives.
We've got our roots here. I could kiss the ground. Good memories. I used to go to work. I'd never miss a day. They taught unskilled people a trade.
The unskilled included freed slaves who Pullman hired as sleeping car porters. Lynn Hughes founded the Pullman Porter Museum.
Those were very important jobs, and those were jobs that allowed a man to provide for his family.
Pullman was a company town with homes built for workers. But Pullman didn't stop there.
He built a hospital, a trade school, and he built this 65-room hotel named for his daughter, Florence.
Pullman was no saint, though. He despised unions and endured bitter strikes. But ironically, the diverse workforce he employed fostered an environment that ushered in fair labor conditions and civil rights. Many here believe their history is America's history. Long after the plant closed, after fire consumed an entire wing of it, and after the city considered leveling the whole area to build an industrial park, many of the people in Pullman stayed. Mike Szymanski is president of the historic Pullman Foundation.
As a city planning unit, still works today. Planners come here from all over the country, all over the world, and they study Pullman. I think it was a very positive, progressive experiment, and that's what it was.
And now it will be a national monument. Dean Reynolds, CBS News, Chicago.
A big honor for the city of Chicago and the South Side. President Barack Obama will be here next week to dedicate a national monument in the historic Pullman neighborhood. NBC5's Christian Farr tells us what this means to residents.
There is a collective sense of pride for those who live in the far South Side neighborhood of Pullman. On Tuesday, the city and the White House announced that the president will travel to Chicago to establish the Pullman district as a national monument because of its rich history and century-old architecture.
We were thrilled.
Michael Szymanski is the president of the historic Pullman Foundation, which for decades has preserved the neighborhood's history, which includes it being the birthplace of the African-American labor movement. Szymanski says the designation will bring much-needed economic development.
It creates jobs, and it creates pride and a higher level of care, and people want to live here.
It was long overdue. It was long overdue.
Pullman resident Al Quiroz has waited decades for this honor. Quiroz was not only born and raised in Pullman, but he also worked at the now-defunct Pullman Company for 20 years.
It's a wonderful town. A lot of people are restoring their homes. They're buying a lot of homes around here, and like I say, it's a wonderful thing.
Designation here in Pullman will give Chicago its first national park. The president will be here on Thursday, February 19th, to mark the honor. In the Pullman neighborhood, Christian Farr, NBC5 News.
President Obama back in Washington tonight, but before leaving Chicago this evening, he stopped by his Kenwood home, reportedly getting an update on Chicago's bid to land the Presidential Library. And the South Side is the location for America's newest national monument.
President Obama personally delivered the designation today to the Pullman community. He signed the official documents in a Chicago public school originally founded by George Pullman. The president noted that Pullman's rail car company was the second largest employer of African Americans in the country. One of those Pullman porters was an ancestor of First Lady Michelle Obama.
One of those porters' great-granddaughter had the chance to go to a great college and a great law school, and had the chance to work for the mayor, and had the chance to climb the ladder of success and serve as a leader in some of our city's most important institutions. And I know that because today she's the First Lady of the United States of America.
Designating Pullman a national monument doesn't by itself bring many federal dollars. With most of the surviving factory structures in ruins, tens of millions of dollars, perhaps even more, will eventually be needed. That's why our political editor, Mike Flannery, is so fired up tonight.
Well, Dawn, it really boils down to whether we're going to be serious or not about telling the amazing Pullman story, and telling it in a way that will grab the attention of a 21st century audience. Boy, what a story it is.
Cheers, Pullman.
Celebrating Pullman's big day was one multi-ethnic family whose ancestors from Mexico, Ukraine, and Germany started arriving here in 1906 to build Pullman rail cars. More than a century later, they still live in the old company town built by George Pullman. Like their forebears, brothers Al and Ray worked on rail cars right up till the final facility closed in the 1980s. They've saved hundreds of objects that illustrate Pullman's story.
This is the bar of soap they give you to supply you when you took a shower on the train.
Their ancestors saw Pullman as both an economic opportunity and a refuge from political oppression in other places. Union activists recall the 1894 strike at Pullman as key to the birth of America's union movement.
The story of Pullman is the story of how workers can get together and organize for a better life.
It is also a story about the genius of American capitalism, about how George Pullman, born into a modest evangelical minister's family, created an industrial giant. Pullman is also part of President Obama's story. He spent 3 years as a community organizer in the area. His mother-in-law worked in the Pullman Bank. His wife's ancestors include a Pullman porter, among those who helped found what became the modern civil rights movement.
Historic Pullman teaches us we have to keep standing firm and together. That's the story of who we are. That's the story of our past.
There are conflicts in those stories, but when you look at it through that historic lens, you recognize the importance of this place.
You know, and that's exactly what I find so exciting about this new national monument. Pullman embodies issues Americans are still quarreling over, not the least the role of labor unions and of government regulation of giant industries. So here's what I say, because there really is a serious money issue down there. If you want to be sure that your side of the story is heard, write a check. Get involved. This new park is so exciting, Dawn and Jeff, precisely because it's so relevant to what's going on today.
This is Chicago's very own WGN Evening News at 4.
Today, the governor and Mayor Lori Lightfoot helped cut the ribbon on the newest national monument as the Pullman Historic District officially opens to the public.
WGN's Sean Lewis live on the city's far south side to give us a look. Sean?
Yeah, these Pullman grounds once claimed more than 4,000 acres here on what is now Chicago's south side. It pays tribute, this monument does, not only to American ingenuity, but to the American workers who made it happen. The ribbon is cut, and the memories are being shared at the Pullman National Monument on Chicago's far south side.
It's like a dream come true.
Al Quiroz was third generation working at the Pullman factory. The former administration building and the iconic clock tower are now the first part of this historic site, dedicated to the American labor movements.
I got hired in this building, and the building's still here, and so am I.
His brother Ray.
I did anything and everything for the construction of a Pullman Railroad car.
Is also still here. The two worked side by side from 1959 until 1981.
It's a beautiful thing. Finally, the gentleman, Pullman, George M. Pullman, is finally getting recognized for what he did. He wasn't a good man, but he did good for the people.
In the late 1800s, George Pullman built what became a city in itself, a factory town that included housing, schools, libraries, and a hotel. The workers building luxury passenger rail cars. The Pullman porters on board provided the service.
This community helped put Chicago and Illinois on the map as industrial age powerhouses.
Today, Mayor Lightfoot and many others came to this dedication to the American worker. In 1894, the union at Pullman went on strike over low wages. The U.S. government stepped in when the strike, crippling rail service across the country, also began to impact the U.S. economy.
The rich history of the Pullman strike truly illustrates how critical it is to listen and address the needs of our workers.
In 2015, then President Barack Obama named the Pullman Historic Site a national monument, leading to the opening of the museum today, with exhibits cataloging the labor disputes in Chicago that led to workers' rights around the country now.
All American workers owe so much to the generation of workers at Pullman and the Pullman Porters. We are especially grateful to the Pullman Porters for their work as some of the early leaders of the civil rights movement.
For former employees like Al.
Long overdue, and like I say, I'm happy that everything turned out just right.
Congresswoman Robin Kelly, along with Senator Dick Durbin, saying that the Pullman site, the national monument, may soon get an upgrade. Both of them sponsoring legislation in Congress to make this entire site a national park. We are live on the city's south side. Sean Lewis, WGN News.
Thank you, Sean.
Live from Chicago's #1 news, ABC 7 Eyewitness News at 5 starts right now.
The labor movement, the reason we have a Labor Day, has roots here in Chicago. And now that history being celebrated at the city's first national monument in Pullman. Sarah Schulte shares the celebration that happened there today.
Pullman Clock Tower and surrounding grounds is now a national monument, but for brothers Alfonso and Ray Quiroz, it represents so much more.
I applied for a job here in 1959, and the building's still here, and so am I.
Now 85 and 84 years old, the Quiroz brothers were born and raised in the Pullman neighborhood. Naturally, they went to work for the Pullman railcar factory. Both worked on the last rail car before the company closed in 1982.
It was a double-decker, a sleeper, and the car was beautiful.
While rail cars were beautiful, it was the workers who made them that represent this national site.
We've all heard the story. Company owner George Pullman cut wages while maintaining high rents in the company town, squeezing workers until they could take no more.
Factory workers walked off the job in 1894. Their fight led to the national recognition of Labor Day. Years later, the nation's first black union was formed. After the company closed, the clock tower sat idle until a fire destroyed it over 20 years ago.
That fire not only mobilized and organized this community more than you could ever know.
The mobilization led to this day, the official opening of the national monument.
Long overdue recognition of Pullman.
Inside the building is a visitor center where some of the Quiroz brothers' own railcar mementos are on display.
I got a bunch of these aprons and a bunch of these keys left over.
But organizers and public officials point out the National Monument is just the beginning. Alderman Beal says it's going to take another $90 million to complete all the other proposed projects in the area to make Pullman a major Chicago tourist attraction. In the Pullman neighborhood, Sarah Schulte, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Milestone and the restoration of the Pullman National Monument on Chicago's south side. The Visitors Center is now open, and the ribbon was cut on a very significant day. NBC5's Kate Chappell was there.
In 1959, I got a job at that building. The end of that building, that was the employment building. And the building's still here, and so am I.
Brothers Alfonso and Ray Quiroz never thought they'd see the day their former workplace, the Pullman Palace Car Company, was restored.
My job was interior, all interior.
The pair was hired in 1959. 6 decades later, they're reminiscent and appreciative their hometown is being recognized for its part in the labor movement.
With all these people coming down here, I'm very happy to see all this, and it's like waking up the dead.
The Pullman site was designated a national monument in 2015. And since then, millions of dollars have been poured into renovation.
I've been in the area for years and years and years. I'm so excited to see all these teeth are here. We finally getting attention.
Governor J.B. Pritzker, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and 9th Ward Alderman Anthony Beal among the many officials on hand to cut the ribbon at the Visitor Center Monday, which they hope will be an economic driver for the city and state.
We've had over 8,000 tourists in this community in just the last 2 or 3 days. That is only the beginning.
They're also vowing to preserve an important piece of history on a very significant day.
The holiday of Labor Day has its roots right here. And I don't just mean right here in Chicago, literally right here in Pullman.
This community helped put Chicago and Illinois on the map as industrial age powerhouses and served as a backdrop for the historic strike that would reignite labor and civil rights movements across the country.
Now that the grand opening weekend is complete, the Visitor Center will be open daily from 9 to 5. In Pullman, Kate Chappell, NBC5 News.
Should be a great place to visit.
Great day for history buffs, Mike. Thank you, because Chicago officially opens its first ever national monument this weekend. So I am talking clearly about the Pullman Monument on the southeast side. This is just a renowned former factory town. George Pullman built thousands of train cars there. Many of those vintage cars will be rolling back to where they all began later this morning. President Obama designated Pullman a national monument in 2015. It's a sprawling 12-acre site that includes the iconic railcar factory and the Hotel Florence. Certainly a big weekend for fans of Chicago and for fans of railroad history.
It's so fascinating. If you haven't been out to that area, you would love it, Scott.
Live from Chicago's #1 news, ABC 7 Eyewitness News at 6 starts right now.
Place of Labor Day. A strike by black train workers in Pullman back in 1894 led to the creation of the holiday we now celebrate every year. And on this Labor Day, a big event is happening at the Pullman National Monument on Chicago's far south side. It's the official ribbon cutting for a new visitor center. The site has been open all weekend for visitors to take tours and learn about the porters who formed the first black labor union. Their efforts help pave the way for our first 8-hour work day and many future civil rights victories.
For Pullman native Alfonso Quiroz, a man who worked and manufactured Pullman rail cars, this is a moment he says takes him back in time.
The thrill of working, building these cars, and then I would turn around and see the cars on the rails going down to city, all through the United States. I'm glad to see it come back, long overdue.
In Pullman, I'm Christian Picos, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
That is so cool.
This is Chicago's very own WGN News at 9.
A Labor Day parade in the most appropriate of places, the Pullman neighborhood.
WGN's Andrea Medina talked to union workers about the significance of the holiday.
Happy Labor Day! Early Labor Day celebrations kicked off on Saturday with the parade that traveled through the Pullman neighborhood.
Brought out to bring the grandkids and enjoy Labor Day.
Thank you. They enjoyed the candy and freebies handed out. Mayor Brandon Johnson, together with a multitude of unions, businesses, elected officials, and community members, marched down Cottage Grove Avenue. People cheered them on from the sidewalks.
Happy Labor Day!
Without the union, we would have no representation.
Two brothers who each spent more than 20 years working at Pullman Standard participated in the parade.
It was one big happy family. And, of course, union was involved in that.
They expressed their gratitude to the Steelworkers Union for its support when the company shut down operations in 1981.
They offered us early retirement. I've been retired 42 years now, collecting pension and still collecting it.
The Chicago Federation of Labor points out that even though today and the rest of the holiday weekend honors past achievements, they say they will remain committed to advocating for social, economic, and racial justice for all working people in Chicago and the county. Reporting in Pullman, Andrea Medina, WGN News.
Angie, Chicago's Labor Day parade being held later today at the community inspired the nationwide holiday. The city's Pullman neighborhood is deeply rooted in the country's labor movement dating back to the late 1800s when the Pullman workers' strike showed the power of labor unions. Today's parade will kick off at noon from 107th and Cottage Grove and then head south to 112th. The parade will immediately be followed by Eddie Fest, an annual celebration named after a local steelworker and activist.
Chicago's Labor Day parade returned to the Pullman neighborhood for the second year in a row.
Union proud, union strong.
Organized by the Chicago Federation of Labor, the parade stepped off at 107th Street and Cottage Grove Avenue.
Chicago neighborhood has a historic connection to the labor movement and the fight for fair wages and working conditions. We talked to two brothers who are the last two Pullman workers to live in this neighborhood.
I'm very happy to be involved with the Labor Day parade and representing people in Pullman, people that worked in Pullman for over 100 years.
Alfonso Quiroz and his brother Ray both built train cars for the Pullman Company from 1959 until the plant closed in 1982. They went on strike in 1977, fighting for what they believe is fair and right.
Today, I don't think there's that respect anymore. There's not that much respect between union and management.
While Chicago workers celebrate with their families, they're also reminded of how far they've come.
Unions are not the enemy. We're not against the working people. We're here for the working people.
In Pullman, V1 NBC5 News.
Well, it was a walk down memory lane for two brothers who grew up in Pullman and worked on the last Pullman passenger car built there.
Ray and Alfonso Quiroz got to see some of their handiwork 40 years later. The historic car is in town for the first time for the Pullman Railroad Days this weekend. The brothers reminiscing about their 24 years with the company. Ray remembers what he wrote on the back of a plaque commemorating that car.
It was a George M. Pullman plaque. He who removes this plaque without proper authorization shall be damned the rest of his life.
And is the plaque still there?
Yeah, we got a photo of the plaque.
We have a photo of the plaque, but the plaque is not there. It was gone, I think, a week after it was on a line. I don't know.
I don't know. The brothers, now in their 80s, grew up in Pullman, and they still live there.
That's neat. They also recreated that photo that they took there. Great.
Well, this weekend, the community of Pullman will celebrate the city's railcar history, and local brothers are already on board.
They took a trip down memory lane today to a pivotal moment in Chicago's history.
Sally Schulze takes us along for the ride.
Inside Union Station, Chicago brothers get ready to see a key piece of their history, which is also Chicago's history.
It'll bring back memories. It'll bring good memories.
Al and Ray Quiroz walk along the rails to see the final passenger car made at the Pullman Standard Factory on Chicago's South Side. This is a reunion, you see, between a rail car and two brothers who helped make it. The car is now an Amtrak Superliner.
Just put these doors on everything.
But inside, the Quiroz brothers greet it like an old friend they haven't seen for 40 years.
Memories, memories.
This picture captured the last moment they saw that rail car when it was built in 1981. They had been working at the Pullman factory since 1959.
Who got the job there first?
I did. I did.
Other than that, these brothers, now in their 80s, agree on everything else, it seems. That working on rail cars and living in Pullman is the pride of their lives.
I loved going to work. I enjoy all the people that were in there.
I worked at Pullman Standard, and the best of my life was still working with Pullman and still in Pullman to this day.
They'll celebrate all that this weekend at Pullman Railroad Days, which will honor the South Side factory that churned out thousands of rail cars.
In building this car and others like it, these brothers really left their mark.
I used to get a penny, and I used to drill a hole in the penny and screw it into the wall. And I would say to myself, this is a good luck penny for this car.
They also placed a plaque inside commemorating the final car.
On this plaque, we had written on the back of it, in paper, that he who removes this plaque without proper authorization shall be damned the rest of his life.
That plaque is gone, so perhaps someone out there is damned. But these brothers feel quite blessed to have been along for this historic ride. Sally Schulze, Fox 32, Chicago.
A special reunion today at downtown's Union Station that was packed with all kinds of Chicago history. Two brothers who had long worked for the legendary Pullman Company got to board the same exact train that they built, the last passenger car to roll out from the Pullman factory on Chicago's South Side. It's a story making us Chicago proud.
For Alfonso and Ray Quiroz, this was a walk down memory lane.
I was born in Pullman. Raised my family in Pullman. I worked in Pullman Standard.
The brothers were just in their 20s when they first started working at the legendary Pullman Company, building train cars that moved America.
I had a lot of fun working on these cars, building these cars, and when these cars rolled out, finished and everything, I was really proud that I built that car.
Now in their 80s, that pride still on display.
Remember this here too?
Yeah.
We'd be able to go to the washroom and shave and shower at the same time.
The brothers helped build this, the last Pullman passenger car, in 1981. Still in service today, the Amtrak Superliner will roll back to its birthplace for the first time this weekend as part of Pullman Railroad Days at the Pullman National Monument. The monument was opened on Labor Day last year, allowing visitors to experience the once bustling company town and the country's labor movement. It was in Pullman in the late 1800s where factory workers walked off the job. That fight led to new workers' rights and the national recognition of Labor Day.
Now, we're going back to the 1800s. I wasn't around at that time, but we benefited by what their struggle was at the time. So whatever they benefited at the beginning, that's going back to the 1800s now. I benefited by it.
But for the brothers, today is about reminiscing and sharing stories not necessarily included in official tours.
If you take these panels down, there's notes. People write notes on the wall indicating that tonight tonight before I go home, I gotta get a loaf of bread.
And there was one more story they shared about the penny that was drilled in behind the doors before the train car was finished.
To this day, the pennies are still there. The reason why I did that, to get good luck to this railroad car. bring back good memories.
I love those stories that they were telling. So this 1981 Superliner will roll into Pullman on Saturday at 8 a.m. at the 111th Street Pullman Metro Electric Station. Pullman Railroad Days will take place on both Saturday and Sunday at the Pullman National Monument. There was so much pride and joy when they were walking through that car that they had a hand in building.
Did you see them hop up to, I mean, like naturals. They grab those rails and they're up in there. Pullman is so incredibly historic and important.
So much fun talking to them today, and all of that happening this weekend. That train's going to roll into Pullman.
It's a lucky car because
with the
pennies in there. It was terrific. Wow.
This weekend, the community of Pullman will celebrate the city's rail car history. Two brothers closely tied to that history got a jump on revisiting memories today at Union Station. Al and Ray Quiroz visited the final Pullman passenger car ever built, which is now an Amtrak sleeper car. They both worked at the famous Pullman Standard factory and helped build this very rail car 40 years ago.
I enjoyed going to work. I loved going to work. I enjoyed all the people that were in there. The bosses were nice to me.
I worked at Pullman Standard, and the best of my life was still working with Pullman and still in Pullman to this day.
Yep, they were born in Pullman, still live there. They're now in their 80s. That car, by the way, is being cleaned up today, then moved down to the Pullman Monument for the Pullman Railroad Days happening this weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, love that story.
Bring back the hotel life again.
Pullman residents push for the restoration of a 100-year-old hotel. We're live on the South Side. Did you know there's a notable old Victorian-style hotel right here in Chicago? For this week's edition of Chicago Tonight in Your Neighborhood, Joanna Hernandez and producer Blair Paddock spent time on the far south side in the Pullman community, which includes the Pullman National Historic Park. And it's where some residents hope a bill will help revive the Hotel Florence. Joanna joins us now from outside that hotel. Joanna.
In Paris, I have to tell you, from the outside, the hotel is just breathtaking. It was built more than 100 years ago. Just take a look at it. The architecture is just quite beautiful. In 1881, it was a luxurious hotel where fancy parties took place and celebrities from all over the world stayed. The hotel has been closed for years, but community members are hoping a state bill can bring the hotel back to life.
I used to shoe shine at the bar, and I got 15 cents a shine. And the customers used to give me a tip, and they used to buy me a glass of root beer pop and a bag of potato chips.
If the walls could talk, is what 87-year-old El Quiroz says when speaking about the historic Hotel Florence.
When I was a kid, a bunch of us guys used to walk around on the roof, and the house detective chased us off the roof, and we used to come down this fire escape.
The lifelong Pullman resident grew up at the hotel. In the mid-40s, his mother was a head housekeeper.
And did reach you was the first Latina?
And the first Latina, and her name is Elena Rodriguez Quiroz.
Quiroz tells countless stories of the once thriving hotel. Decades later, he holds on to the hope of watching it operate once again.
I hope to bring back the hotel, the life it brought many years before.
A bill in Springfield has made its way to the Senate. If passed, $21 million will go towards restoring the Hotel Florence. Julian Jackson is executive director of the Historic Pullman Foundation. He says the bill opens the door for a private contractor to be in charge of the redevelopment operation.
This is really a partnership community. And that idea of partnering together to make things happen, to brainstorm about what it means to make a community, is what Pullman is all about. So I'm excited to see the next step of the Hotel Florence take advantage of those partnerships.
Currently, the property is owned by the state, but before that, the Pullman Foundation bought it in the 70s to save it from being demolished. It's now part of the Pullman National Historic Park. Inside the foundation's exhibit hall, you can find dozens of treasures from the hotel. Is there one here that's your favorite?
You know, I think the Hotel Florence sign is probably my favorite. When we found that it's still lit up and the electronics worked in it, I kind of like, I had a little jump.
Yeah.
The Hotel Florence was part of a larger vision, spearheaded by businessman George Pullman.
In the midst of kind of this industrial town that was building heavy equipment and rails and so forth, there's this example of amazing elegance. And Pullman was somebody who really thought about that. He wanted the best of everything in his rail cars, and that extended to the Hotel Florence.
Nearby Roseland also plays a big part in this history.
Where did those people from Pullman shop? They shopped in Roseland. So if we talk about Pullman being historic, we also have to talk about the historic value of Roseland.
The possibility of reviving Hotel Florence, Roseland is pushing to be part of that change.
With all this major investment coming into this community, what would be a sin and a shame is if the people that live here can't take advantage of the job opportunities that are going to be created because of this new infrastructure.
Much of Pullman is considered historic, something Quiroz says he is proud to be a part of.
I went to every inch of this hotel, every inch from the roof down to the basement, repairing, tapping the walls and see if they were hollow in case there was hidden treasures in the walls.
You were hoping for a hidden treasure.
Yes.
Unfortunately, El has never found that hidden treasure, but he says the real treasure would to see this gem transformed into a functional hotel. Now, if you're interested in exploring the neighborhood, there is some events happening this weekend. They're called the Railroad Days. Now, people will get a chance to see vintage rail cars, hear about the union movement, and of course, check out the national park. The best part is you can just take the metro that actually leaves you right here. Now, reporting live from Pullman, I'm Joanna Hernandez. I send it back to you.
So much great history there, Joanna. Thanks very much.
The last Pullman workers who still live in the historic area are celebrating a special anniversary today. 10 years ago this month, the Pullman National Historical Park was included in the national park system. Brothers Alfonso and Ray Quiroz spent decades building railroad cars in Pullman, and they were there when the park was designated. Today, they showcase some of the rare company artifacts.
And a toolbox. Toolbox my father-in-law had when he worked at the canning shops. I'm a third generation of building railroad cars. And this is the toolbox my father-in-law had before he retired, and he kept his tools in it.
Look at these tools in great condition. Craftsman always has to take care of their tools. Pullman National Historical Park is the first National Park Service unit in Chicago.
That is impressive. I bet Brant has a special toolbox too, that passed down for generations.
My Uncle George worked in the shipyards of Portland, and when he passed, I have all of his tools.
See?
Wow. He said he was crying. He said when the moving guy had to lift like a couple thousand pounds of stuff. I've got Stilson wrenches that are like this tall. Nutty.
Hang on to it.
There you go. And first rule, never loan your tools to anybody.
You won't get them back.
You'll never get them back.
Never.
The last Pullman workers who still live in the historic area are celebrating a very special anniversary.
Yeah, 10 years ago this month, the Pullman National Historic Park was included into the national park system. The brothers Alfonso and Ray Quiroz spent decades building railroad cars in Pullman and were there when the park was designated. And yesterday, they showcased some of the rare company artifacts.
And a toolbox. Toolbox my father-in-law had when he worked at the canning shops. I'm a third generation of building railroad cars. And this is the toolbox my father-in-law had before he retired, and he kept his tools in it.
The Pullman neighborhood was the first planned industrial community in the United States, with workers offered housing near the factory. Pullman National Historic Park is the first National Park Service unit in Chicago.
And a very special anniversary celebrated by the last two Pullman workers to live in that very historic area. I'm going to talk about the last Pullman workers who still live in that historic area are celebrating a special anniversary today. It was 10 years ago this month the Pullman National Historical Park was included in the national park system. Now, brothers Alfonso and Ray Quiroz spent decades building railroad cars in Pullman, and they were there when the park was designated. Now, today they showcase some of the rare Pullman company artifacts.
And a toolbox. Toolbox my father-in-law had when he worked at the canning shops. I'm a third generation of building railroad cars. And this is the toolbox my father-in-law had before he retired, and he kept his tools in it.
Pullman National Historical Park is the first National Park Service unit within Chicago city limits. It's a treasure that we have on the south side, and great to see that the history is still being honored there. And all the train cars that got made there. It's just an amazing history down there. Proud of his tools.
Also impressive he still has his toolbox.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, and the family history that links so many of these people to the city and the company, it's really great.
I'm glad they're telling the stories, too, keeping it alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out down there.
I loved working at Pullman. I loved all the people that I worked with.
86-year-old Ray Quiroz and his 88-year-old brother Al are the last two of what were once thousands.
We're the last ones that live in Pullman that worked at Pullman Standard.
The brothers have lived in what was once a company town for the Pullman Rail Car Company for their entire long lives.
I was born here in Pullman, banked at Pullman. I went to Pullman Park. I went to Pullman School. It was just a wonderful place.
And they both worked at Pullman from 1959 until the factory closed in 1981.
They taught me a lot of things, especially old-timers that worked there.
10 years ago this month, Al was invited to take part in a ceremony as former President Obama signed the declaration turning the Pullman property over to the National Park Service. The Pullman National Historic Park has helped revitalize the Pullman community, bringing nearly $500 million in new development.
And now it's a national landmark, and there's people coming from all over the country to visit Pullman.
The Quiroz brothers are more than just walking Pullman history. They also saved Pullman history. This electric train bell is just one of dozens of Pullman items that Al salvaged from a dumpster as the factory was about to close.
As a person that lived in Pullman, born and raised in Pullman, and I said to myself, this is my history. This is part of me working in Pullman, and all this trash, they're thrown away.
And to mark the park's 10-year anniversary, this week the Historic Pullman Foundation put up this billboard along the Kennedy at North Avenue to remind Chicagoans of the national landmark right in their own backyard.
The thing we're hoping to achieve is to heighten the awareness of a national park being in the city of Chicago and the significant stories associated with that national park.
And if you visit, maybe you'll get lucky and bump into Ray and Al.
I got a lot of stories to tell you about Pullman. You give me a glass of wine, I'll tell the whole thing.
In Pullman, Dane.
Brothers and history keepers.
I'm a third generation of building railroad cars. I said, this is my history.
The incredible Chicago artifacts they salvaged decades ago after their bosses ordered them to throw everything away.
This week, the historic community of Pullman on the far south side is commemorating 10 years of being part of the National Park Service.
That's right. Its history not only preserved through its architecture and its role in the labor movement, but by two brothers who worked and continue to live in the one-time industrial town. Our Andrew Ramos has their story.
They're dated back to 1898.
They may not consider themselves historians, but by most standards, Al and Ray Quiroz are. The brothers Al, who is 88, and Ray, 86, are former workers of the Pullman Palace Car Company, one of the first planned industrial communities that specialized in train car manufacturing in the United States. Workers and their families both worked and lived on the grounds, which had a factory, its own streets, and housing.
When we started to work there, we learned how the cars were built.
It was on-the-job training. I just loved it.
Today, the two are the last remaining workers to reside in the neighborhood. They not only have held on to their memories, but also rare artifacts from that era. Items like century-old blueprints, train car memorabilia, and an electric bell once used to alert riders. All things they saved after being ordered by supervisors to throw out.
My boss told me, he says, Ray, says, whatever is up there on the second floor, get rid of.
But Al saw it differently.
I'm a third generation of building railroad cars. I said, this is my history.
Thanks to the brothers, that history now preserved and helping tell the story about Chicago's far south side Pullman neighborhood, where a renaissance of sorts is underway.
10 years after President Obama designated the historic Pullman district as part of the National Park Service, the area itself has seen nearly $500 million of economic development.
Mike Szymanski is president of the Historic Pullman Foundation.
Every time somebody says a negative thing about the South Side, you should be prepared with at least 4 positive things that are happening. And, you know, one of the positive things is the national park.
As businesses continue to flock to the area, locals hope it translates to foot traffic and inquisitive minds coming to visit.
I came here for coffee and got history.
Sounds lovely. I would have used that to wake my kids up every morning.
For the Quiroz brothers, they hope the spotlight will continue to shine on the Pullman workers and their long-lasting contributions.
And all the troubles we had and all the problems we solved by building these cars.
On the far south side, Andrew Ramos, CBS News, Chicago.
The famous Pullman railcar factory closed almost 50 years ago, yet a pair of brothers who worked at the Pullman factory are continuing to try to save its history. I'm Dane Placco in Pullman, and I'll have that story coming up.
Chicago's only national park is celebrating an anniversary this month.
And today, the last 2 Pullman employees still living in that historic neighborhood are talking about the park's impact on their community. Our Dane Placco has more.
I loved working at Pullman. I loved all the people that I worked with.
86-year-old Ray Quiroz and his 88-year-old brother Al are the last 2 of what were once thousands.
We're the last ones that live in Pullman that worked at Pullman Standard.
The brothers have lived in what was once a company town for the Pullman Railcar Company for their entire long lives.
I was born here in Pullman, banked at Pullman, I went to Pullman Park. I went to Pullman School. It was just a wonderful place.
And they both worked at Pullman from 1959 until the factory closed in 1981.
They taught me a lot of things, especially old-timers that worked there.
10 years ago this month, Al was invited to take part in a ceremony as former President Obama signed the declaration turning the Pullman property over to the National Park Service. The Pullman National Historic Park has helped revitalize the Pullman community, bringing nearly $500 million in new development.
And now it's a national landmark, and there's people coming from all over the country to visit Pullman.
The Quiroz brothers are more than just walking Pullman history. They also saved Pullman history. This electric train bell is just one of dozens of Pullman items that Al salvaged from a dumpster as the factory was about to close.
As a person that lived in Pullman, born and raised in Pullman, and I said to myself, this is my history. This is part of me working in Pullman, and all this trash, they're thrown away.
And to mark the park's 10-year anniversary, this week the Historic Pullman Foundation put up this billboard along the Kennedy at North Avenue to remind Chicagoans of the national landmark right in their own backyard.
The thing we're hoping to achieve is to heighten the awareness of a national park being in the city of Chicago and the significant stories associated with that national park.
And if you visit, maybe you'll get lucky and bump into Ray and Al.
I got a lot of stories to tell you about Pullman. You give me a glass of wine, I'll tell the whole thing.
In Pullman, Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at
Lunchbox, a small, simple object that carries so many memories. Al Quiroz carried his lunchbox to work at the Pullman Company from 1959 until the Southside factory closed in 1981. Today, that very lunchbox is on display with other items for a new exhibit at the Chicago History Museum. The exhibit is titled A Key in Chicago. Celebrating 170 years of Latino culture and contributions to the city, Quiroz is 89 years old and one of the last living Pullman workers.
Being a Mexican in Chicago represents a lot of progress in Chicago and the United States. And I'm proud to say that I'm full-blooded Mexican.
Quiroz worked at Pullman with his brother. Among their items on display, a worker's apron made from leftover mattress fabric and a set of metal keys used to unlock train doors. The Key in Chicago exhibit opens to the public this Saturday.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 9.
Now, as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, we are also taking a look at the places and spaces that help shape our nation, especially those close to home. And our Casey Cronus is uncovering the lost archives and hidden artifacts that are bringing the story of Pullman National Historical Park to life.
If the walls could talk, they'd tell you a lot of stories.
In the city's historic Pullman neighborhood, every street has a story. And for decades, some of those stories were hidden, tucked away in boxes, drawers, and places few people thought to look.
When I first bought this house, I went to the basement and to the rafters, and I found blueprints, I found letters.
For Al Quiroz, those stories are personal. Pullman isn't just history, it's home, having grown up on Langley Avenue.
The whole property of Pullman. All these buildings are where they used to build the cars.
Al began working for Pullman at just 23 years old.
From that point on, I fell in love with working in the cars.
And for more than 2 decades, up until the very end, worked alongside his brother Ray.
And this right here, this is when I first got hired, they gave me a list of tools that I had to get. And I kept this ever since.
Over the years, Al has held on to pieces of Pullman's past. Today, he is the last surviving worker still living in the historic company town. The familiar sound of the Pullman bell, his father-in-law's toolbox, and blueprints Al discovered when the plant was closing.
So I went to the dumpster and I pulled all this stuff out. And I asked my supervisor, can I have this stuff? And he said, yeah, take it because it's all going to be scrapped, thrown away.
All saved, preserving their place in the archives.
For an entire century, they built the cars that moved America here in Pullman.
Retired architect, urban planner, and Pullman historian Mike Szymanski has called this neighborhood home since 1967, spending decades preserving the community's history. Now, much of his personal collection is on loan inside the Pullman exhibit hall for visitors to see.
The thing that people should celebrate and recognize is the incredible innovation that was facilitated and the desire to improve things and provide more opportunities for people and for the nation to produce products that were competitive not only domestically but internationally.
But Pullman's greatest legacy wasn't only what was built inside the factory, it was the community that grew around it.
It was a very sophisticated evolution, and it was an experimental town. The beautiful thing about Pullman is that they provided housing for people of all different talents and family composition. The other thing is you didn't have to work for the company to live here, nor did you have to live here to work for the company.
Whether or not you punched in for Pullman, the people who lived here took great pride in their town. Something records reveal was on full display for the 4th of July.
We know on July 4th, 1892, there was a huge two-day celebration.
The elaborate Independence Day celebration was held 1 year before the Columbian Exposition, partly in an effort to attract attention and raise money for the World's Fair.
And the program started at 4 a.m., firing the salute of 25 guns.
The archives, including an original program book that outlines the parade route, are now in the care of Peggy Parfenoff.
They had a 4-mile parade that went around Pullman and Roseland, and then in the evening they had bands and fireworks.
The second day brought a full slate of friendly competition.
They had the wheelbarrow race, the sack race, the ladies race, and then this is my favorite, the greased pig race, and the winner gets the pig. It was quite the celebration in 1892.
1 year later, the effort to put Pullman on the map appeared to have worked.
Pullman was the #1 attraction outside of the World's Fair that people came to see.
To this day, 4 buildings flank Market Square, the heart of the company town.
It was kind of early Airbnb style housing, and so it was an attraction.
And more than a century later, the story of Pullman is still being written. Today, visitors can walk the same streets, explore some of the same buildings, and experience a national historical park that continues to evolve.
It's a national park right in our own city.
From daily ranger-led tours to a cup of joe at Pullman Club Coffee, and soon turning the page for the Hotel Florence.
This was a forgotten area, but it's coming back, and people should come down and visit Pullman.
A site of history preserved in time for another quarter millennium.
And after 250 years, it's going to be here a lot more longer. Like an old tree that was dying, and I put a little water on the base and the tree grew back.
The story of Pullman doesn't end here. On July 8th, it will join other historic sites across America in a simultaneous reading of the Declaration of Independence as part of the nation's 250th birthday celebration. In the studio, Casey Cronus, Fox Chicago.
Live from Chicago, ABC 7 Eyewitness News at 4 starts right now.
As the country nears 250 years old, Chicago landmarks stand as living proof that the nation's growth has always started with its people.
The state of Illinois is celebrating America's birthday by distributing a passport that maps out pivotal historical locations. ABC 7's Jasmine Miner giving us a sneak peek at an educational trip that you can take with family.
We're here at Pullman National Historical Park, where America is celebrating 250 years as a country. And Illinois has created this passport that's going to take you on a journey through all the places that laid the very foundation of the country. Let's get this tour started. On the far south side sits America's first planned industrial community that George Pullman built in the 1880s.
It was designed as a model town, but it also became the site of one of the nation's most pivotal labor uprisings when the Depression hit and wages fell.
80% of the work that was normally done here in producing cars disappeared. The jobs disappeared, and that contributed to the strike.
The Pullman strike helped ignite the modern labor movement, proving Chicago workers would help shape workplace rights across America. One of the last living Pullman workers still lives in the town created just for them.
My main job was installing the doors. The pocket doors, sliding doors, swinging doors.
All right, next stop, Museum of Mexican Art. We made it. We're exploring how the Mexican community contributed to America's story. This space honors generations of Mexican Americans whose culture helped define Chicago and the nation. And since we're talking about railroads, let's learn about the Traqueros.
Traqueros are basically railroad workers. It's just like the Spanish or the Spanglish version of the word. So basically, traqueros comes from the word track in English.
They were recruited by railroad companies replacing Chinese labor workers.
These traqueros were coming in by the hundreds and by the thousands in the early 1900s to come fill in those labor gaps here in Chicago and across the Midwest.
Next stop, Jane Addams' Hull House. And our last stop of the day, we're looking at a woman ahead of her time who broke the divide and built a community of hope. In the heart of the city, history shifts from industry to humanity at the Jane Addams Hull House Museum.
Jane Addams was many things. She was an American woman, a kind of American superhero, really.
Founded by Jane Addams, Hull House became a lifeline for immigrants, offering education, childcare, and hope.
In the 20s and 30s, Hull House would sometimes welcome 10,000 people through its doors. It's astonishing. You know, these are the people who really built the city.
And last, but certainly not least, in part one of our passport tour, you can also check out the DuSable Black History Museum, named after Chicago's first permanent settler, Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable. Inside, you'll find information from the Great Migration to civil rights, stories that helped reshape Chicago and the nation. And that wraps up the first few stops that showed how Illinois played a key role in America's future. I'm Jasmine Miner for ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Jasmine, thank you. In the weeks ahead, we'll be exploring multiple stops, including in the passport released by the Illinois America 250 Commission.
If you would like to learn more, visit abc7chicago.com to find the passport and take a trip of your own.
And we'll have special coverage of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence throughout the day on July 4th.